So one of the most common questions I get from new parents is, what is the best way to approach bedtime? Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Evans, and today we're going to talk a little bit about what's the best practical approach for putting your newborn and your toddler to bed. So there's a couple of rules of engagement. Rule number one is if you already have a baby that goes to sleep and sleeps all night, just turn off this video, count your blessings, try and keep your karma up, and don't brag to anybody. Rule of engagement number two is there is a science to putting babies to sleep, but it's not an exact science. The literature is flawed, but it does tell us two things. The one thing is that families that have a predictable, it doesn't have to be long, bedtime routine seem to do better. And the second approach is something called systematic ignoring, which is different than what your partner does to you, but is a behavioral approach we use with kids. It is important to know that one size doesn't fit all. Different families, different parents, different kids. And so this may work for you or it may not, but I'm going to outline some different approaches. To fail sometimes is actually normal in this process. So you need to know a couple of things. One, if you do have a partner, it's important that you get on the same wavelength. You may have different skills, different opinions than your partner, but what's key to developing a behavioral approach is that you're consistent. So you need to be consistent with your partner. The next point is, as I mentioned earlier, this can be really tricky, it can be stressful, and more than any probably population that I see in my clinic, the ability of parents to cognitively distort and think that they're a failure is astonishing. So you have to know that failing sometimes is normal here, but that if you can kind of keep up the consistency and keep the big picture in mind, you're going to do fine. A good place to start is where your child is developmentally. So let's start with newborns. Newborns, we try and keep it simple. So number one is we try and keep it safe, so having them sleep on their back. We try and get them to start to understand the difference between day and night. Newborns can get mixed up in this regard. So at night we try and keep it dark and keep it soothing and low tempo. And obviously during the day we try and get them outside, get them more engaged. So they start to develop what we call a circadian rhythm. The next thing we're looking for with a newborn is your ability to sort of tell your baby sleep cues. So that's when you're looking at the baby and you start to say, oh, she or he is starting to get tired now. So for instance, that classically might be 2 hours after a feed, but you start to develop this skill, and this is a very useful skill as you move on. The next phase is the 3 to 4 month old. At this stage, they're still too young for any sort of behavioral techniques, but at this point you can start to withdraw your soothing a little bit and just start to be aware of it. So the baby starts to put themselves to sleep a little bit better, but there's no sense withdrawing or ignoring your child at this point because behaviorally they just can't adapt. So at 6 months, maybe 5 months with some babies, this is the time that we can start to develop the baby's own skills at putting themselves to sleep.